my name is Kimmy. The purpose of Worth the War is rethinking love and helping people to avoid abuse. If you think we can do a better job with love and relationship than we're doing today, you have found the exact right channel. I hope you'll press the subscribe button, share our materials with people you think that would agree with us, and help us to build a community here on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok even, as we gather the community together that believes that we can do better with love and relationship and can certainly pass better down to the little hearts that are following us. Today we're going to talk about why we really should be a little bit afraid of love when we're starting a relationship, and why our brains actually stop us from feeling that kind of, I wouldn't call it fear the way that we generally think of horror movies and terrified, but fear as in awe and respect. And we have a built-in system that messes with our ability to make good decisions when it comes to love. So we're going to talk about that briefly, and we're going to talk about some ways that we can go around that so we actually can do our very best to use the brain that we have, but also make a good choice when it comes to love and relationships so we don't find ourselves wounded in the process. I'm going to link an article down below that is a really great summary of the neuroscience of our brains in love. But we're going to really quickly do the cliff notes here so we can kind of head into how we can avoid some of the pitfalls that our brain can actually create for us when it comes to building love and relationship. So we know when we're in the attraction phase in the very beginning that we get flooded with dopamine, which attaches us to people. All good and fine, that's great. It actually is also a hormone that helps us to attach to people later that we've already got relationships with. So it's a beautiful part of being human. We also know that serotonin, when those levels drop to a certain level, which does happen in this phase, they actually get to be, and this is what I thought was interesting in the research, to be about the same level as someone who has obsessive compulsive disorder. So somebody who is consistently worried about washing their hands over and over, or keeping things clean, or there's lots of different ways it can manifest, actually the levels are similar. And what that tells us is that when we say, all I can think about is this person, and we're completely just bowled over by, just can't think about, focus on anything else. So we have really good reasons to understand why it seems like this person we're interested in is a light and everything else fades to black in the background, and we're completely obsessed, and all these things that we talk about with love that we think are so mystical and magical, they have some very strong chemical roots. But there's one thing that really jumped off the page to me when I was looking at some of these studies and reviews and articles. There is a small part of the brain, the amygdala, that actually controls our fear response. And guess what? During this phase, it is deactivated. And so what does that mean? Well, it means an awful lot for those of us who believe that we need to rethink our approach to love so that we can spare hearts. We can avoid some of the train wrecks of abuse and broken relationships that happen because we end up in these really unhealthy relationships. And people will say, well, we can teach people the red flags, but if the amygdala is turned off, all those fear responses are kind of pushed to the side. So we have to understand, if we're going to rethink love, it's going to include understanding our own response to the initial phases of love so that we can actually help people get around some of that and make a decision that will not leave them broken, that will give them a shot at making a good partner compatibility choice in this hugely chemically and physically changing time in the human brain of attraction phase. So how do you prepare for something that you know is coming that will absolutely make you not want to see things as they are? So let's say you tell somebody when they're 10, someday when you meet someone, your brain's actually going to so quickly morph itself into this settings, is a good way to put it for those who understand the way computers work, that you literally won't be able to see things as they are. It's like you change the filter and all of a sudden everything that was color is now black and white. We have to understand that if we are going to prepare people to be able to make good decisions, there are certain things that we need to tell them before they end up in that phase. It's really, I believe, nearly too late to tell someone who's already in the phase where their fear response, and fear, like I said, is an awe or respect of the importance of the decision. If you are in the throes of having that part of your brain chemistry just turned down, it's going to be really hard to convince yourself that what you're feeling isn't more important than what you know or what people are telling you. So it has to come before that. So that's why it's so important that we prepare hearts to be healthy, that we actually put into their hands, that we who have seen the wreckage of unhealthy love can put into the hands of children or people that are entering back out into the dating and love relationship, the knowledge they actually need to know what they're looking for before they go out and look for it. Not in terms of all the small minutia, but in the big things. What kind of goals do they have? What kind of character do they have? What are their intentions? What is their worldview? What are the things that are really non-negotiables before you meet them, so that you aren't finding yourself checking off the list all the things that were really, really important to you because the person that you are now completely enamored with doesn't meet some of those. Now, there is room for flexibility. There is room that we can stop and say, we don't want to be crazy about every little detail about what we want in someone. But there are some non-negotiables that will actually, if you push them to the side, make your actual compatibility and the ability to have a healthy match really be diminished. And we all know, those of us that have made it in love and relationship for decades and decades, that even in the best of circumstances with the most things that matter, it is still sometimes a struggle to find the good in one another. So let's try to minimize that backpedaling that happens when we meet somebody who might meet none of our criteria, but meets all of our levels of dopamine and serotonin and our amygdala shrinking and deactivating. So what we have to really do is think about it this way. What would we need to have as a code word that would not only remind us that what we're feeling may or may not be reality, and it might be something as simple as saying, when I'm in this environment, I have something I can go to in a journal or in a writing. I think even better if you have someone that you trust, to have talked to and really shared with someone what it is that are the non-negotiables. A lot of stuff can be just brushed over. They don't really matter. But those non-negotiables, tell them why they're non-negotiable so that they can remind you of them when you start to toss them out the window driving down the highway. It isn't perfect. It isn't a flawless plan, but it's certainly better than what we do today, which is let's just hope for the best and see if we end up with a lower abuse rate or a lower broken relationship rate. So let's think about it in terms of preparing people who are young or who are entering back out into the relationship arena, making sure we understand that our brains are a big part of how we experience life. So those kinds of things that we know to be scientifically valid are things that we should consider as we enter out into these relationships, saying, there's a lot here that I need to wait and to see how it actually pans out over time. And that's why time is such an important piece in finding the right person, is that it takes time for people who are abusive for the mask to drop, to really find out if they mean what they say or they're just saying it to get what they want. Even in the case of really good hearts that are trying to find one another, if you're actually making decisions to be with someone because of the initial attraction phase, and the actual reality is that your compatibility ratio is really low. So this is a practical way of doing that. And so have a safe place. Have either in a writing or with someone that you trust that you know will have the gumption to really bring it up with you when you are star-eyed and love drunk, to share with you these things are going to be problems later on. You need to really think about it, or at least put the brake on a little bit so that you can slow down and let these physical and physiological changes happen and filter out a little bit, and you can start to make decisions down the road that might be better for the long run and not quite as in the moment. So I hope that something here has been helpful. It's a really big part of our Rethinking Love approach, is that we need to stop doing things the same way. We need to realize that until we take a different approach, we cannot expect different effects and different results. And right now, our results are that 1 out of 4 young women are finding themselves in abusive relationships, and 1 out of 10 young men. There's just way too much dating and intimate partner violence. And so if we want to avoid some of that, we just can't keep doing the same thing and hope that it'll get better. I hope you have found something that will be valuable. I really hope you do press the subscribe button, and also join us by pressing the notification bell so that you'll know right away when new content comes out. I thank you for taking the time to be here. I know there's lots of other places you could be. I hope you have a great rest of your day and that you'll join us on other communities as well. Take care.